All right, welcome back. You're still watching Tonight, and we are having this conversation about the state of the nation, state of the economy rather, but I mean, it's the same thing. But also reflecting on the few data points that are critical at this time. But first, let me take a look at the feedback you've shared with us, your comments about the state of the economy, writing to us at CitizenTV Kenya, Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is Citizen Tonight. Crispinas Adams is saying that high taxes are pushing people out of business, leading to decline in revenue collection. Lowering of taxes and levies is necessary to cushion the existing businesses and attract new investments that could create new jobs and extra revenue. The next one, this is Orutoa Sam. You're saying that all the people in informal sector depend on the ones in formal employment to be empowered to purchase. How honestly, mtu wa jua kali cannot promote the other jua kali individuals to be in profitable business. So kwa analyst, you're saying we cannot create jobs if manufacturing, production and agro-processing are dying, as those in these sectors have no access to affordable and sustainable credit, coupled with punitive tax codes and incompetent economic policies. It's a miracle that the economy is still functional. MOG Abdi, the economy is bleeding, but the political elite live untouched. While Kenyans battle joblessness, high taxes and runaway prices, those in power focus on public relations and blame games. This isn't just an economic failure, it's a failure of leadership, planning and compassion. And then Ruben Mugao, you're saying that looking at the prices of the basic commodities, we can proudly attest that Kenya is moving in the right direction. And then the other one is Carrier Davis. You're saying that how much loans do we need to pay? Why was fuel put as security for loans? He's referring to the securitization of 7 shillings of the road maintenance fund and of course road maintenance levy fund. Yeah. Now, also, what we know in regards to the statistics from the government is in regards to, that's what I want us to take a look at, in regards to the question of treasury bills, which have been, the rates have been on a decline. If you're to look at July 2024, the 91-day treasury bills were selling at 59.9% of interest. That has come down to 8.1% in July 2025. That's almost half. 182-day treasury bill was 16.8% in July 2024. In July 2025, it's 8.4%. That's exactly a half. And 364-day treasury bill was 16.8%. It's now down to 9.7%. Of course, becoming cheaper for the government to borrow from the local economy. Let's take a look at something else about the exchange rates, the Kenya shilling versus the US dollar. Of course, this is one figure that those in government have continuously spoken about. Let's look at how it is now. It is 128 shillings 60 cents to the dollar. In July 2024. In July 2025, it was 129 shillings 24 cents. In July 2023, it was 141 shillings 9 cents. But in July 2022, it was 118 shillings 15 cents. So you can see there, rising from 118 shillings to 141 in the first year of President William Ruto, going down to 128 shillings in July 2024, and now slightly up at 129 shillings 24 cents. The final one is in terms of the Kenya's foreign exchange reserves. This has been moving gradually. In July 2022, it was $7.9 million. That was import cover of 4.6 months. We are now talking about $11.2 million import cover of 4.9 million months. So in absolute terms, it has grown by nearly, actually more than is it 3? Yes, more than $3 million US. But in terms of the import cover, the difference is not as much, but you're closer now to 5 months. I want us to close, and beginning with you, Dr. Makali Mulu, some of these statistics, I mean, are they all that important when you're talking about forex reserves, the foreign exchange, as well as the treasury bills and the interest rates and how they've been shifting?
They're actually quite important. You know, one of the things we consider when we are harassing macroeconomic environment, you must look at foreign exchange rates and foreign reserves, in addition to interest rates, inflation and all that. And why it is important, because, for example, the exchange rates, is that, like now when you say the shilling is doing at 129, and it was, the other time it was doing at around 141?
Yes.
What that means is whatever you are buying from out there, when it's very high, becomes very expensive. And in an economy where we are so much dependent on imports for our inputs for production, then when the dollar is low, it's better for the economy, because it means you're actually, to some extent, it will affect your production costs.
Right.
But the other thing is, then whatever you are selling out there in terms of exports, when the dollar is low, it means then people can buy more of your exports. And that can increase volumes, and it could trigger more production and that.
Right.
But to me, what is critical, and I think that's why Dr. Aruko could help us, because he's in the research. I don't know whether this 129 is as a result of free market movement, or it could be there's interference. That one I can't say, because I'm no longer in the research arena. When I used to be there, I would be able to say it.
Okay.
But this one of the import reserves for 4 months, you know, the requirement is for a country to be assessed to be doing well, you need to have reserves which can meet 4 months of your imports. You see, now we are doing 4.5, almost 5 months.
Yes, 4.9.
That is a good sign for the economy.
Yes.
Because it means you're actually doing well in terms of foreign reserves. And that could reduce the panic in terms of the dollar going up or low, or the other foreign currencies, because you have better reserves. That is good for the economy. Okay. So what we are saying, the statistics are pointing to a better future. But if you look at the comments, which people are saying our economy is by God's grace that the economy is still functional. Yep. You remember that comment?
Yes.
I think what we say this, the Kenyan economy is so resilient. And that's why anytime we come here, we say that our economy is so resilient. If we just did things better, we have a great country. That's the thing. Okay. And that's why you see some of these statistics give you a very good picture. But what is happening down here, it doesn't, because I maneno mzuri.
Yeah.
But the thing is the distributive aspect of it. When we say the economy is growing, who is it benefiting? How are the Kenyans getting a benefit of that growth? Or is it a few Kenyans who are benefiting, and as a result of that, then sisi wale wa chini hatuisikii? These are the questions.
Beatrice, tueleze, kwa sababu umeona bei ya dola imeendelea kushuka ukilinganisha na mwaka wa 2023. Je, bei za bidhaa, kwa sababu kama ni nguo za kutoka nje, mnatumia katika ununuzi lazima mtatumia dola. Ukiangazia miaka hiyo mitatu imepita, kumekuwa na tofauti hivi kwamba nguo za sasa zimekuwa kwa bei nafuu kuliko ilivyokuwa mwaka wa 2023?
Kwa mwaka wa 2023, kusema ukweli, nguo ilikuwa na bei nafuu. Ndipo hata tulikuwa tunaweza kununua, tunapeleka kwa waheshimiwa kama hawa nguo nzuri, nguo ambaye angalau hatakuwa tunapata reject nyingi. Lakini hivi sasa hata tupati mali nzuri, ni kama wanazifungua, wanatuwekea sasa zile third class, kwa sababu sisi ni wale wa chini. Kuna nguo ambapo hata ulikuwa unaweza kununulia watoto, unawanunulia kwa bei nafuu, shilingi 50, shilingi 100 kwa mapato. Kwa sababu hivi sasa mtu wa ushago, ile gari alikuwa anakuja na shilingi 150, sasa hii anakuja na 300. Bei ilipanda. Kwa hivyo pia huku bei inafaa kupandishwa. Kwa hivyo tukiangalia utofauti, saa hii vitu ni ghali kuliko ni kitambo. Saa hii vitu kununua, hata hiyo mtumba inategemewa na mtu 7. Watu 7 ndio upate wewe uivae, imepita kwenye mkono wa watu 7. Watu 7 wakule ndio mwenye kuvaa havae. Kwa hivyo inaonekana kwamba imeajiri watu wengi. Na inapoajiri watu wengi, pale mwanzoni ikinifikia mimi napata faida, yule mwingine anapata faida, huyu mwingine anapata faida. Lakini naponifikia mimi saa hii, faida ni kidogo sana. Kiwango ya kwamba hata siwezi peleka mtoto shule. Mfano mzuri, saa hii mimi mtoto wangu angekuwa kwa college last year. Lakini kwa sababu mapato yangu ni madogo, nina watu wa Shylock, hata tukopeshwi sisi na benki. Sababu mwaka wa 2003 tungeweza kukopeshwa, unaenda unaekeza kakitu kako unakopeshwa. Lakini saa hii hata benki haitukopeshi. Kisa na sababu maisha iko juu. Sisi wenyewe mapato yetu yako chini. Unaambiwa leta M-Pesa statement. Wakiangalia mwenzangu, M-Pesa yangu ikienda zaidi labda ni 10,000, 15,000. Nani atakukopesha? Kwa hivyo mimi naonelea uchumi sasa uko chini sana. Namshukuru rais kwa sababu alikuja kweli akatusaidia kujenga soko. Ile soko japokuwa kulikuwa na ulagai, kuna soko nyingine bado anaendelea kutujengea. Jambo la kushukuru sana. Tunashukuru. Basi atusaidie kwa upande huu. Mnaposema economy imepanda. Economy imepanda, sisi walio chini hatuoni.
Okay.
Imepanda kwa wachache walio na fedha mfukoni. Sisi ambao tunauza tukule, tunaitwa hand to mouth. Yaani unashika shilingi 50 ukimbilia sukuma, hiyo siku umesave tu shilingi 20. Basi inaishia hapo. Na Bwana Sam, nikurudisha nyuma. Haujafafanua utofauti wa informal na informal. Sisi tunafaa kujulikana kwamba sisi ni wale wenye vibanda duni. Vibanda ambavyo ni temporary structures. Ziko tu tumewekelea mbao tu na karatasi juu. Si tu tumewekelea banda ambapo ni banda. Na ambaye anaitwa formal ni ule amekaa kwenye jengo. Okay. Sisi kwa hivyo tuko na utofauti. Sisi ni wale wa kunyeshewa, sisi ni wale wa kuuza maswiti, sisi ni wale wa kuuza ndizi, ndio tunaitwa informal. Lakini sisi wenzetu wa Kenya mnatuweka mbali. Mnaona kama sisi ni wafanyabiashara ambao tunapata, hatupati sawa na wale wengine. Mnafaa kutujali, kutumold kidogo, hata sisi tufanikiwe. Tufike hapo penye panafika. Tunapoangalia kwenye mfano wa machairmans, hao washikadau wetu, hao wakubwa wetu, pole kusema hivi mheshimiwa, kitu kama hii ikija kwenye market, nyumba kama hiyo imejengwa, badala ikuwe kwenye uwazi, tena mimi ambaye niko chini, yule wa informal, naitishwa 200,000 niingie kwenye ile duka. Je, nitapata wapi hiyo 200,000? So inabidi yule mwenye pesa anapata, mimi ambaye niko kwenye informal nakosa.
Hiyo ni nyumba ama ni soko? Soko
ambapo imetengwa kwa vyumba. Hivi soko vimetengwa kwa vyumba, vipande vya nyumba. Kila mtu na kaduka kake, kila mtu na kaduka kake. Lakini government ilifanya uteketevu ku handle over kwa machairmans. Kunapo handle over na kwa machairmans,
hiyo 200,000 inaenda wapi?
Inaenda kwenye mfuko zao.
Brokerage.
Okay, that's a big problem.
Inaenda kwenye mfuko zao. Na alafu tunapoitisha sisi wa informal, tunapoitisha uchaguzi, ile uchaguzi haichukuliwi kama ni uchaguzi, kwa sababu wako na wale wachache wao ambao wanawashikilia kule juu. Sisi tunapokuwa hapa chini hatuna godfathers.
Okay, nimekupata Beatrice.
Kwa hivyo mtaangalia hapo Sam.
As you touch on that question, because it sounds like the corruption and the indiscipline
Again.
Martin was talking about. So Martin, I want us to end up. There's someone who is, I think it's Soko analyst, who is saying that the economy cannot grow if the manufacturing sector is not growing, the agro-processing is not growing. And this has been one of the key issues that is being contested. If you look at the growth, the current government was promising, actually the Uhuru government was promising that it would be a double-digit growth in the manufacturing sector. Now we're actually going down. I think the last time I checked was 7% or less. What ideas do we need here? Because if we are not going that direction, then talking about employment will still remain a mirage.
You see, what Daktari here described is what I read books and I see them, they describe it as a superstar economies. Superstar economy where it's only the large financial institutions and multinational corporations who are making money. And the danger of that is that we end up with a wealth concentration and a serious disparity, because the laws and the technology employed by these big tech companies and big companies is not reachable to these small business people. And at the end of the day, they suffer because they cannot match up. Today, if we don't, and I agree with what that gentleman has said, unless we improve our production. And how do we improve our production? By simply making sure that we avail at an affordable cost factors of production. We avail factors of production at an affordable price and make sure, because for me, I would have no problem subsidizing production, especially like things like energy. And because when we were growing up, and I know Dr. Makari and Dr. all of us here grew up in a time when we had multinational companies producing a lot of things. When I went to industrial area in 1997 for the first time, the railway within the industrial area was functional, and it used to go for goods there. But today they are defunct. Why? Because production in our country is not sustainable. Why? Because the cost, we are oblivious of the facts that we cannot make production spike unless we incentivize. And when it's agreeable, and I think the president has time and again shown us that incentivizing agriculture has ended up making sure that we produce more food. How much more then should we now be incentivized to replicate these in manufacturing? If we and let's government keep off those kind of things. Let them enable the private sector. Give the private sector laws, predictable tax regimes, give them affordable credit by releasing that money to them. Whatever you do, whether it is tax breaks or whatever you need to do, you are better off incentivizing production and making sure that we are able to produce. Then the other thing that we need to do to make sure that we do is that government is the biggest spender in an economy. We usually say it's one of the biggest spender in an economy. So why the president needs to make sure that we restore the institutional discipline and the government integrity. That a few years ago, if you had an LPO from the government, you would be served in a manager's office in the bank. Today, if you go waving a government LPO, they'll call police for you, because they know the government won't pay. We need to restore that so that even as the government is doing all these things and building the housing and all that, everybody can participate in a way that they are able to afford credit and go to spend that money. Then government must invest in technology. I must keep saying this. One of the biggest problems that we have with our economy today is that people are not cognizant of the fact that the economy is changing. The economy is panning towards a digital world. And Sam, I put it to you today. The government is speaking a lot about the digital economy, but I'll put it to you. 80% of Kenyans, other than the spelling and pronunciation of the word digital economy, they have no idea what that portends. And this is a big issue because the young people that we are having today are waking up to an economy that is from the traditional economy that we had towards a digital economy. They must be a deliberate effort to make sure that they are sharpened towards that route.
And you know, when you talk about the digital economy, the Kenya Revenue Authority in its data that they released last week, out of 2.57 trillion shillings, it's only 14 billion shillings that they attributed to the digital economy, which is quite a small percentage. Dr. Rugo, I want you to close for us, not with the word of prayer.
I can do that too. I actually think that's the best way.
But so all these factors are pointing towards creation of opportunities. And one of the things that many sectors have always spoken about is that the cost of energy is high. If you're to look at the efforts that the government has been coming up with, you hear of county aggregation and industrial parks. You see several counties coming up with investment conferences or fora to sort of look at how to spur, to ignite a growth in their counties. So what is it that we must do, especially to stop this being a manifesto issue, but becoming a way of life in the management of our economy?
Thanks, Sam. I think we need to make a deliberate decision that we are going to build Kenya and buy Kenya. You just showed some very interesting numbers here, that despite our reserves growing by $4 billion, our import cover has only improved by 0.8 months. What does that tell you? that we actually are importing more than we were doing before, because there's no way that almost doubling, a 60% rise in your reserves can only give you a couple months, of import cover. So I think because a lot of the things we are importing are things we can produce locally. Think about the Kenya Kwanza manifesto around I forget them now, the 7 value chains of cotton, of leather, I forget the others. All those are things that we are producing here that we actually can build on. Think about the farmers who, as we've said, a lot of the agriculture is actually subsistence, and it's a hard-to-tax area. But you see, agriculture only makes sense when it is an input to an industrialization agenda. In other words, when you look at the 2 sectors that are actually not performing currently, yes, they are still driving some growth, but they are not performing is agriculture and manufacturing. The 2 sectors that are driving the growth are the service sector and financial services. Now, those 2 sectors, the service sector and financial services, which is what perhaps I might differ a bit with Martin, they actually can rely on tech. In other words, the whole financial services sector can actually rely on tech and still drive some growth. You will see more money. But where is this money going? A lot of it, of course, is being borrowed by government. We can talk about the rest of Lisa and the like. So I think a decision to build Kenya and buy Kenya is a critical one. It's not just a cliche, because then it means that we start investing in the cotton value chain, knowing very well those are the same clothes that she will not have to wait to open a bale with rejects, but she actually has a supply chain. There's a supply of that. But the second thing, Sam, we are not going to run away from the challenge of reducing the size of government. We are running a monster that is too big to manage. It's starting to, we are spending a lot of our money. Think about just a statement that was said about why we are securitizing the road maintenance levy fund. Is to pay our bills. When you think about the 248 entities, I struggle to call them enterprises because I don't think they're enterprises. The 248 of them, each of them has a CEO, has a board, has staff, has vehicles, has electricity, has all these things. Do we need to pay all those expenses? Do we need to maintain, and this will be very controversial, do we need again to maintain, as we have, every government office that we create, we support it with a fund, whether it's the 3 funds that the members of parliament have been pushing, the CDF, the NGAF, and the Senator Oversight Fund. Then at the county level, the Ward Development Fund that, MCAs want to be in charge. Do we need 47 county governments? So if we don't deal with the cost of government, why I'm raising this is that right now we are actually borrowing to pay salaries, to keep the lights on, and not necessarily borrowing to spur economic activity. And it's only by spurring economic activity that you create incomes. Because as I've said, Sam, the problem of Kenyans is not that they want a benevolent government that pays their bills, that sends them money to their homes. Kenyans want to work. But they want to work and be able to determine their ends through an economy that actually rewards that kind of effort. And therefore merit and the like needs. My final word. Rule of law is a key to our country. Because countries that do well is not that they have less corrupt people, but it's that they have rule of law that rewards compliance and punishes non-compliance. If we don't do that, if we keep withdrawing cases on corruption, if we keep excusing that we can create ghost schools and transfer money to those ghost schools and ghost children and still sit pretty, that we can create fictitious hospitals with more beds than our national referral hospitals, and transfer money to those hospitals, I think that's the things we need to do.
Okay. All right. And that's where to close it at. Just about looking at your feedback at Citizen TV Kenya, Sam Gituku, the hashtag being Citizen tonight, on some of the remarks that Kenyans have to share. Again, Rutua, some you're saying that the government is always bragging about economic growth, which may be gross product by a few people, when you need economic development, which speaks about general total growth of the entire population. And I wonder which economic school did the government economic advisors go to mislead? Okay. E. Muhiu, a huge amount of money is held by the government, lost to corruption or tied up in the Kenya shilling 1.2 billion church project. Yet most of the ongoing projects are leased or privatized ventures like the Bomas of Kenya. Okanda Eugene, current job creation efforts seem seasonal and unsustainable, far below the SDG number 8 standards. How can the government shift towards long-term inclusive strategies that foster development or decent work, innovation, and youth-driven entrepreneurship? It's a question that you pose. Again, Orutua, you're saying that Kenyans are overtaxed. For example, pay is 32%. Besides, VAT is waiting for whatever you buy. How much money do you think a Kenyan has remaining to promote informal sector dependence? And Sir Nixon Dugire, who in government is supposed to listen to these great minds and actualize their very viable and ideal ideas? Well, that's a good question. I don't have the answer. Of course, a few
Can I just make a close one sentence? You know, Sam,
yeah,
you have displayed very good statistics there on your screen.
Yeah.
But those statistics will only make sense to Kenyans if they feel them in their pockets.
Sure. Okay. All right. So it's a nice program. So, someone is sharing their number and saying, send something, please, to this number. There's another one who is saying, Beatrice is a real hustler, Heko. Another one is saying that we have figures for jobs created. Do you know how many jobs have been lost over the same period? That's an important question. Because back in 2020, over 700,000 jobs were lost because of COVID-19. Kazi Maju or Climate Works, Bila Hongo hupati kazi ya serikali. And another one, global fuel prices vis-a-vis domestic prices, I think asking for comparison of the trends in the global market versus what we're witnessing here in Kenya. Again, one is saying that wanaongeza bei ya mafuta ndio 2027 wajipigie debe ati wamepunguza campaign strategy. Then someone saying that, well, I think we have to end with this. Newton is saying that watching the state of the economy from Embu, my greetings to you, Sam, and to all the guests tonight. Thank you so much, Dr. Abraham Rugo, Dr. Makali Mulu, Beatrice Chepkoril, and Martin Chomba. Thank you for making time for us of this conversation. Continue with your feedback, and of course, when we will have a chance to look at them to inform even further conversations into the future. This has been Tonight, and next week we'll be back with the News Gun. Good night. My name is Sam Gituku. Bye for now.